Hello class. So today we are going to be continuing practicing our algebra, and today we're going to be getting into graphical algebra. So we're going to be looking at graphs and the equations that create those graphs. And in particular, we're going to be looking at linear graphs, so straight lines. So we're not going to be looking at cubics or quadratics or anything like that. Let's first kind of recall what the general form of a linear equation is. And there are a few different ways we can write it, but one of the ways, is what we're going to cover today, is y-intercept form. And if you remember, it is f of x equals mx plus b. Now, you may be looking at this and you might be thinking, well, I remember there being a y here, right? Well, f of x is the same thing as y. It's just a different notation. So when we get higher in mathematics, remember, we like to use this function notation, what we call it, and we're basically just giving names to our functions. We're saying that this function f is a function of x. Right? So remember, x is our input, y is our output. We plug in an x value and we get out a y value. That's basically what it's saying. This is a function of x, and it is equal to this. Now remember, m is our slope. That tells us how steep the line is. And then we also have our b, and b is our y-intercept, hence why it's called the y-intercept form. And remember, the y-intercept is where the line crosses the y-axis. And let's kind of review a graph here. So here's a graph, pretty simple. It has two axes, right? We have a y-axis, that's the one that goes vertically up and down. Then we have an x-axis, that's the one that goes horizontally left and right. So when I say y-intercept, it's when the line crosses this axis right here. Now, we represent points on this graph, well, I guess with points, and those are written like this. They're written xy form. So remember, x tells us how much we go to the left or right, and y tells us how much we go up and down. So for instance, if I have this point right here, let me get a different color. If I have this point right here, this point would be 0, because I went from the origin, I went 0 left or right, and I went down 1, so that's going to be negative 1. Remember, thinking of directions, we have negative and positive directions in both the y and x directions, where this is y positive, this is y negative, this is x positive, and to the left is x negative. So if you get confused with the positive negatives, that's why. And then also, say if I have another point right here, over right here, and I'm going to call this point 3, 1, because we went 3 to the right and 1 up. Now I'm going to go create a line from this. All I need to create a line is 2 points. And I want to now create an equation from this graph. Well, let's think about what we need for that equation. Looking at our general form, we need to find our m and we need to find our b. Now, one might be easier to find than the other one, but I promise you neither of it's that challenging. Now, this should be review, right? So hopefully this is all ringing a bell. So we need to define our m, and we need to define our b. Well, m is our rise over run, and I'm going to use this notation. You may have seen it. It's a little triangle. It's delta. It means the change of. So I guess we could write that off to the side, is the change, or change in. or change of, something like that. Change of. So how much y changes over how much x changes, or we've probably seen it before as rise over run. How much it goes up or down over, or divided by, if you will, how much it goes left or right. Now b, remember, that's just the y-intercept. It is the y value when x is 0. So it's the y value when x is 0. So let's go ahead and define our specific m and b here. Now I'm going to take my 2 points. To find my m, I'm going to take my 2 points here, and I think, okay, how much do I go left and right, and how much do I go up and down? Because I need to know that for my rise and run. So I'm going to talk about my rise first. So from here to here, it is a difference of plus 2. You see that? 1, 2. So it's going to be 2 over, and then how much do we go over? 1, 2, 3. So our m here is 2 over 3. Rise over run. It went to the right, 3. And then our b value, the y value when x is 0. Well, when x is 0, our y value is negative 1. Or you can just think, count 1 down. So our equation here for this is f of x is equal to m, so 2 over 3, x plus our b plus a negative, so that's going to be minus 1. This is, remember, we can plus and minus is the same thing as just saying minus. So let's go over a couple more here, and we'll go through these a little faster. So hopefully we're getting the hang of it. So let's just take, we have an example here. I love that stamp. Okay. And let's say my 2 points in this case, I have one at 0, 3. And then I have another one way down over here at 4, negative 2. I'll go ahead and connect these as nicely as I can. And there you have it. And I want to know what the equation is. I want to know what is my f of x. Well, remember, in order to find that, we need to define our m and our b. And so let's start with our m. Rise over run. So I want to start from the left point, go to the right point. We always start from the left one, going to the right. So let's see how much we go down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So because we're going in the negative x direction, or sorry, negative y direction, it's going to be a negative 5. If that makes sense. We go up, it's positive. We go down, it's negative. Now going to the right, 1, 2, 3, 4. So our rise was negative 5, and our run was 4. So our slope is negative 5 over 4. And then our b. Our b is the y-intercept. It's the y value when x is 3 or 0. In this case, it's 3. And then we just plug it into our general form now that we have our m and b. So negative 5 over 4 x plus 3. All right, one more, and then I think we will be good. All right, the 2 points that we're given now, we're given one at the origin this time. So we're given at 0, 0. And then we are also given a point at 1, 3. So let's see, 1, 3. And then I will connect it. And again, we want to find our f of x. And in order to do so, we need to define our m, and we need to define our b. M, again, rise over run. So what is our rise? 1, 2, 3. over our run. Well, our run is just 1. So if we recall, anything divided by 1 is just itself. So 3 over 1 is really just 3. We could simplify it to that. And then b, what's our b? Well, it's our y value when x is 0. In this case, b is 0. So our function is f of x equals 3x plus 0. Or we could just write it as this. F of x equals 3x. Because if we're adding or subtracting a 0, it's just saying like adding nothing, right? It's just a placeholder for an absent value. So we can just write 3x. So if you have any questions, let me know. I will be here. And yeah, have fun.